Hey everybody, we just watched a movie, and tonight we're talking about Good Boy from 2025.
He was such a good boy.
He was a good boy.
Good Boy isn't your typical horror movie. It's quite different, but a good different, only because the star of the movie, the protagonist, so to speak, isn't a human character.
The movie is shot from the POV, pretty much, of a dog. So it's a very unique premise to begin with, and honestly, I think the movie was executed flawlessly.
Yeah, I think so too. It was really good for it's not that often that we see movies like this, and I think it was very very well done.
So to give a little backstory on the movie, Angelica actually has a list of people who worked on it.
Yeah, so the director is Ben Leonberg.
Leonberg, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm probably pronouncing it wrong because it's just me. And then, of course, some of the cast, which there isn't much cast, like as far as humans go, but I think that's kind of what makes the movie unique as well, because there wasn't as much like needed effort for that, because again the perspective is from the dog anyway. But the dog himself is named Indy, which is also the real name of the dog in real life, who also just happens to be the actual dog of the director, who is also the owner in the movie. Which it does say, even though his name isn't brought up much in the movie, it does say that his name is Todd.
Yeah, Todd.
Just Todd.
Mm-hmm.
And then other supporting roles by Ariel Friedman and Larry Fessenden, which I would assume would be the sister and then the neighbor.
Right.
Because those are kind of the only other characters that are in the movie.
And then there's the uncle / grandpa, whoever it is, that shows up in the tapes.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But basically the premise of the movie goes like this. It opens with Indy going up to his owner, who is having some kind of sick spell or a seizure or something, but he's bleeding from the mouth and he's not communicating, and you can tell the dog is very worried about him. And then his sister shows up.
Of course, like any loving sister, she's also worried too, and tries to explain to him during a phone call, that dogs can be, they're very intuitive. They can tell when something's wrong, and because she keeps asking him, how is Indy doing? How is he acting? And of course, Todd is just blowing her off, basically, oh, Indy's fine. I'm not worried about Indy, and I'm fine. Everything's fine, and blah, 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 and, leave me alone kind of thing. And that ends up not being a very good choice later on.
For me, if you've watched any of our other videos we've done so far, you'll probably know that a big thing for me in movies is that I pay attention to the cinematography and how the movie is shot. And this movie is shot so well to be as low budget as I know that it has to be. I do know that this was a long film shoot. This film took 400 days to film, which is long for any movie.
Well, probably because of the dog, though, being in the dog's perspective, because you have to do the whole, the labor laws for animals, and the can't it's like with children.
Also, how many takes does it take to get the dog to do exactly what you need it to do for every shot? To make sure it has the right expression, to make sure it goes in the right direction, to make sure that it barks when it's supposed to, make sure all these things it has to do.
Because again, this dog wasn't like a professionally trained acting dog. This dog was literally the director's dog.
But when I tell you that it's an acting dog now, it might be the best dog performance in a movie since forever.
Oh yeah, honestly, give Indy a freaking Oscar. Oh my gosh, he was Even his facial expressions in some of the scenes were like, oh my god, this poor dog's probably so traumatized.
I love the fact that the movie doesn't take a super duper long time to kind of get to the premise. It's not a very long movie to begin with. The movie only runs about 72 minutes.
Yeah, an
So,
hour, 13 minutes.
Like, honestly,
Which is, I
anybody-
think, good for, especially with it being a dog. Yeah, I mean, you would have to keep it on the shorter side anyway.
For sure. I think just because I think the premise is really cool, but having an hour of the dog running back, or more than the hour, you know, if you try to run it for 2 hours, you know, the movie would eventually start to get a little bit boring.
Yeah.
But because of the short run time, it's very punchy. It kind of gets very, like, from scene to scene, it jumps very quickly. It doesn't feel too short either. So,
No, it didn't. It honestly felt like it was a pretty average timing movie, even though realistically it wasn't.
I have theories on what I think the movie was about, like, more metaphorically. And I don't know if it's a big secret or not, but we can talk a little bit more about that when we get to spoilers. But pre-spoilers, though, I can tell you that Indy and his owner, Tom, moved to a dead relative's house who used to also own a dog. And you can kind of think of it as like Todd trying to get away. At least that's what I think, you know.
Away from reality.
Away from reality, kind of escape his life that's not going so well. Like, he's sick. Very sick. It doesn't state clearly what he has, but you can kind of make your own guesses as to what it could be, based on like symptoms that he has and things like that.
Definitely some kind of terminal illness.
Some kind of terminal illness. He's not doing well. The worse Todd gets, you can kind of feel like the more stressed Indy becomes, and also how their relationship starts to deteriorate a little bit throughout the movie. I do think at the core of this movie, it is about the loyalty of a dog.
Yeah, I get that too.
And a little bit about dealing with death and loss, but from the perspective of a dog.
Of a dog, yeah. And when you say perspective of a dog, like, basically what that means is that even some of the scenes, you know, are literally viewed in like what Indy would see, like even at his height level in some of it, and even in some of the dream sequences, and like how a dog's vision would be in some of it. And even when the humans are talking, it's not even a 100% clear like how we're talking right now kind of thing. It's kind of like a muffled, soft, like background noise, but you still like hear what's going on, but it's not them directly talking to you. It's just from what Indy is hearing, if he was to understand human language, of course. But
like most of the dialogue and the, I guess you call exposition of the movie, is done in the background. Usually there are a human person or a TV or something is going off in the background, but Indy will also be doing something or focusing on something else, and the movie is showing us something different while also letting us hear what's going on in the background.
Right.
And helping to kind of build the story along. Throughout the entire movie, you don't really see a human's face until the end.
Right.
Except for one exception, which is the relative that's on the TV.
Right.
You see his face, but the owner, the neighbor, the sister, always their faces are always kept in shadow throughout the movie.
Shadow, or from like the side or behind, like you don't see 100% what they look like. You hear them talking and you see like their silhouettes and their, you know, physical presence. You just don't see their direct face.
The movie does have, for the horror people out there, it does have some very effective jump scares, and I don't think that they are cheap. I think they're well executed. I think that they work very well fit in with the movie. There's no, like, even a jump scare that you would think would be a false jump scare, like where it turns out that it's just the owner grabbing him. Even that scene is still scary because of, like, he's not really behaving like himself in that moment either.
Yeah.
And
I think it's just the intensity of it, because also, like, it's a dog. It's an adorable dog, and like you hear you know, intense music coming, and you know something's about to happen, and basically what you're thinking the whole time is, please don't let anything happen to the sweet adorable dog, like, because I would be upset. So when you see, you know, like the grabbing scene, you're like, oh my god, what is happening? And you know, like that kind of jump scare too,
Right.
because you don't want Indy to get hurt, or you know, like as
Right.
any animal or pet in a movie. You don't want that. So since that's basically the main character of the movie, you know, of course the whole time you're gonna be like, please don't let anything happen to him. Like literally, like,
it's a really difficult movie to talk about without getting into spoilers. I would say that if you are a fan of independent horror, you should definitely see this. If you're a dog person, you should definitely see this. With that being said, I think we should just move on and talking about spoilers. That way we can just be kind of unencumbered with what we want to say. We can say what happened. It doesn't matter.
Because basically, the part where like it shows, you know, Indy's sleeping and you know he's dreaming, and it ends up becoming a nightmare. Like to see the fact, like knowing the fact that like animals can have nightmares and hauntings too, just like humans do. And like the one scene that I really found was like, oh my god, he really is terrified, was when he had that like premonition.
Yeah.
A dream, and he tinkled right after. I was like, oh, like he was so scared he tinkled.
One of the scenes that gets me is when he goes and like to hide under the bed.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
And
like
you can
he
see
knew.
it, like there's something coming, and it was just his owner coming up the stairs, and he's kind of like winded. You can tell that like he's out of breath,
just
but he wasn't really sure what it was
from just going up the stairs. Yeah. But because it was just so scary, because right before that, Indy was already feeling like some kind of dark presence. So, you know, naturally, when he hears Todd coming up the stairs, he's gonna instinctively think that, oh no, something's happening. But no, I think it's kind of sad too, because the part where you mentioned, it shows their relationship kind of deteriorating, because you don't really know how their bond or relationship was prior to the sickness, but you can tell Indy was very attached to Todd regardless. And it does show a clip of Indy as a puppy, like as Todd, you know, picks him out as a puppy. But that's the only clip that you see from the past. It's kind of you know, how you imagine their relationship once was. But because with the sickness, I think it was more of a, like, Todd obviously, I think, loved Indy because that's why he was pushing him away. Because I think it was more of he was trying to kind of ease his emotional attachment to him, because he knew that when he did in fact lose the battle to the sickness, he wanted that to be, I guess that was his way of making it a little easier on both of them, but not realizing that it actually was not the best way to approach it.
I think even more than that is that Todd was not only pushing Indy away, his sickness had him so not only depressed, but he was pushing everybody away. He isolated himself away from society. He barely wanted to talk with his sister. You know, he had become so depressed, and not only depressed but angry with the situation that he was in. Right, that he just didn't want any kind of affection from anybody. Like he was he was in. And you can kind of a little bit be empathetic to that, because Todd is not an old man in this. He's a young man who is, I mean, very sick. Like, this guy's not doing good, and he's probably going to die, you know? And I think he's going through those stages of grief throughout the movie where it's, okay, I'm just going to go off on myself for a while. Oh, I'm actually going to try to go to the doctor. They're saying, oh, not really much I can do. I'm going to try natural remedies. There's a scene where he's bringing the sage out and like all this stuff, basically trying all the different things he thinks he can do to maybe save himself.
But at that point, it was just too late
Mm-hmm.
because he waited so long in the first place to even do
I
anything
think
about
that
it.
it would have been too late to begin with, because in the opening scene of the movie, like
Yeah.
whatever is going on with Todd, which it does never clearly state in the movie.
No.
My
These are just guesses.
guess
but-
is that it's probably some kind of cancer, but it could be something else. But whatever it is, it seems to be affecting his mind a little bit. He's not crazy, but you can tell like he's sleepwalking. He's
not thinking right.
not thinking right all the time.
He even starts kind of seeing the same things Indy does, because that, going back to that scene, when you were talking about him pulling Indy,
Yeah.
dragging him under the bed, that was one of those scenes where you knew Todd, I guess, realized what was happening, and kind of like seeing what Indy was seeing, because it makes you think that there's a haunted presence in the house, but that's not really the case at all. I think it's just more of they both know something bad is happening.
Yeah.
And this was the moment where they both kind of realized that they both knew at the same time.
Throughout a lot of Indy's like visions or what he's seeing throughout the movie, there is this man creature or this humanoid creature that looks like it's a person that's covered in mud, right? And it is my theory that if you notice throughout the movie, the creature is always like in the shadows or in the background somewhere. It's all throughout the movie, and I think if you rewatch the movie, you'll probably even notice it in some places that you didn't before.
Yeah.
Because it's there all the time. And I think that it is a metaphor for death looming over them in the background. And Indy has a sixth sense about it, so he can sense that this is coming.
Right.
And he is seeing literal death coming for Todd throughout the movie.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense, especially Indy being a dog and not having a voice to communicate. His only reaction is naturally to just what any animal or pet would do is try to behave differently to get the owner's attention, to get them to realize, like, no, something's wrong, something is happening. But of course, Todd is just seeing it as, oh, Indy's just he's not acting like himself, but completely just ignores as to why he could be acting that way.
Right.
Instead, he just kind of scolds him, like, get off the bed, and, just leave me alone, and go lay down.
What I think is interesting about that is that Todd is seeing Indy behave differently, but not thinking that he's behaving differently because he is reacting to what is going on
Exactly.
with you.
Because I think it's just because a lot of humans.
But also, it's like the things like, the dog wants to like comfort him, and Todd is like, I can't right now. Like I'm not feeling well. Leave me alone. And
I think that's just because as us as humans, we don't think about the fact, or like we forget that they can sense those things.
right.
So we kind of let our own feelings and our reactions kind of like overshadow that. So we're just initially just thinking like, no, just leave me alone, I don't want you, without realizing that, oh, they just know that something is wrong. And it's kind of like a child in a way, like they just know when something is wrong, and they just can't show it, they can't act upon it in the way that you think that they should. They're just doing it in the way that they know how.
So with all that being said, I think we're going to give our scores for this movie now. Angelica?
I would say I'm between, I don't know, I'd probably give it an 8.5, honestly. Only because, for one, there's no perfect movie anyway. In 8.5, only because, it wasn't a bad movie. I really enjoyed it. There was not as many typical actors as there would be in a movie. The main character is a dog. For an independent film, it was very decent. It wasn't a bad movie at all though. Like I very much enjoyed it. But there's just no such thing as a perfect movie in my eyes. Like there's always something, but I overall very, very much enjoyed it.
Okay. So I disagree with her 100%. I think this is a 10 out of 10 movie. I can't name one single flaw that I found with it. I think it executed on its premise 100%. And if I'm judging the movie based on what it is and what it tried to do and what it accomplished, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Reasons? Dog. It gets extra points for dog. It gets extra points for less people. I don't like people. Get those out of there.
Well, you like me.
That's true. But you're my wife. You're barely people. Just kidding. That's a joke.
Rude.
That is a joke. I think that most people can get something out of this movie, especially if you like dogs, if you're into horror, if you're into independent movies, you'll probably enjoy this one. And stay tuned because it is Christmas time. It is holiday season, and we will have some stuff coming out hopefully by the end of the month.
Honestly, I just want Indy as a dog. He was so cute and
He was
adorable. I just want him.
See you next time.